The day Russia almost launched a nuclear bomb at the United States. It was 1962. On the surface, the world seemed calm, but beneath that calm lived a constant, invisible fear. Two superpowers stared at each other in the dark, the United States and the Soviet Union. Both were heavily armed. Both believed the other was preparing to strike first. All it would take was one mistake, one misunderstood signal, and the world would end. Everything began when American spy planes discovered something unthinkable: Soviet nuclear missiles being installed in Cuba, just minutes away from U.S. territory. To Washington, this was a direct threat, a countdown to destruction. To Moscow, it was a defensive response to American missiles aimed at the Soviet Union from Europe. The doomsday clock moved closer to midnight. U.S. warships surrounded Cuba. Nuclear bombers were placed on the highest alert level. Soviet submarines armed with nuclear torpedoes slipped silently into the Atlantic. Inside those submarines, the heat was unbearable. The air was thin. The tension was so intense that some crew members believed nuclear war had already begun. They had no contact with Moscow. They did not know if their cities were still standing. On one of those submarines, alarms suddenly sounded. American depth charges exploded nearby, shaking the steel hull. To several Soviet officers, this meant only one thing: the United States had started the war. Protocol was clear. If attacked, they were to respond, and the response would be nuclear. The captain ordered the nuclear torpedo to be prepared. A single launch could destroy the American fleet and trigger immediate retaliation against the Soviet Union. Within minutes, millions would die. Within hours, civilization would collapse. But there was one critical detail. Launching the nuclear torpedo required approval from 3 officers. 2 agreed. The third man, exhausted, drenched in sweat, and under unimaginable pressure, hesitated. His name was Vasily Arkhipov. Something told him this was not the beginning of war, but a warning, a test, a tragic misunderstanding. Against expectations, against fear, against his own training, Arkhipov said no. The nuclear weapon was never launched. Days later, both sides stepped back. President Kennedy and Premier Khrushchev reached a quiet agreement. The missiles were removed. The ships withdrew. The world kept spinning, never realizing how close it had come to total annihilation. No alarms echoed across cities. No fire lit the sky. But deep beneath the ocean, inside that submarine, the fate of humanity was decided by one man who refused to press the button. And ever since, one haunting question remains: what if he had chosen differently?